in TBC. I'm Joe Blecka. I'm the product manager for Trimble Business Center, TBC, based in Westminster, Colorado. If you want to chat or have any questions or anything on what you see here, please feel free to contact me at that email address. And we are very fortunate to have Chris with us today. He is one of our distribution partners with Keystone Precision. He is fighting a little bit of the flu or cold. So Chris is a trooper. Thank you very much for doing this with us, Chris. And I'm going to let you introduce yourself and take it away. Actually, one thing, if you've got any questions for me or for Chris during the presentation, please type them into the window. We'll be monitoring those. We'll try to get to as many of those as possible during the session. If not, we'll have them archived so we can reach out to you afterwards. So with that, Chris, thank you very much, and take it away.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thankful to be here. Glad you have to be here as well. If there's anything I'm saying that you can't understand because of my congestion in my head, I apologize. Like Joe said, just leave a message. I'll get back and we'll sort it out there. Again, my name is Christopher Gallardo. I'm a support and training specialist from Keystone in Crofton, Maryland. We'll get into the project here that we're going to be doing. First, we're going to do is I'm going to show you what I used out there and bringing this in and bringing the. So what I used out here to collect this data is I used an SX10. I used the scanning function on this, and I also used it as a total station to get the Sonarmite data, which I'm pointing to right here. Now, I use an MT1000, which doesn't really need to be used on SX10. That's just the prism I use. So I like to show what I'm actually using out there with all the equipment, so that way you know what's going on. This project, I set control with the R10, so that's where I base my control from. Then I ran a traditional traverse through that. After I was done running my traditional traverse, I was set up good to go. I went ahead and put the MT1000 on the Sonarmite and then brought that on the Hydrone. Now, the Hydrone I was using is not autonomous. It's your regular remote control when you're using there. The area I used that in was better for me because of the current. Now, depending on what you're going to use and how you're going to use it, that just depends on your personal safety out there. I do recommend when you're using any type of these drones that are in the water to please have a chase vehicle. Things do happen, current happens, wind happens, anything happens out there. You don't want to lose one of these out there. So that's my first precaution about doing this water work. Another thing about doing water work, when you're doing water work, if you're in a tidal zone, I'll keep touching this through the entire demonstration. You're going to want to know what you're working with, whether it be mean low water or mean low water. All the depths that are coming out of my project here are not adjusted to mean low water. So it's just giving me a rough bottom there. In your area that you're going to do any of this tidal work, please check your tidal gauge, check what your tide variance is. In the bay, we have about a 4 to 6 foot tidal range. It can go a little bit different from that here. I'm going to go ahead and just switch and put you into my actual display here so you can see where I'm showing you here. Okay.
Yeah, while Chris is getting that done, he's going to have TBC version 5.00 patch 1, which was just released last week, and with the TBC Survey Advanced with the scanning module shown here. And Chris, while you're getting started, do you want to introduce what the outcome or what you were trying to get accomplished here with this project?
Yeah, I was going to that now. So I live in a tidal area. You can see this area. I live on the eastern shore of Maryland, which is on the Chesapeake Bay. If you haven't had a chance to come here, please do. We have wonderful crabs and we have wonderful seafood. This is a main artery. A lot of boats come in and out of this area over here. So this was done. This ramp is a public ramp. They need to know how much sediment gets in there. So they need to know how much soil they need to take out every year. but they don't have a big budget on it. So they need to get it done at a low cost. So they just need to get that done. So we just go in, do a nice little scan of that area of their paving, and then we do a little Sonarmite area of the actual landing in there. And this is just so that way you know how much sediment comes in there. And this is also furthermore for a dredging. So I'll start scrolling in to our project, and this is also something I recommend with anyone that uses TBC, that you should have a Trimble connected site. You should be connected. That way, when you come in, you have this nice background map. For being a surveyor for 20 years, if I had this and bring it in, you can kind of see the limits of what are already done before you even come in. So we'll start scrolling into the project, and right now I have it in my plain view. Scroll.
Yeah, and one of the nice enhancements we made with version 5, you notice the theme should hopefully look a little different, but we added a lot of toggles to the status bar down there at the bottom. So when you're logged into your Trimble connected account, there's that little icon of a map right there.
Right here.
That is a shortcut key to the toggle, this background map that Chris is showing.
Right, it is a really, really great tool to have in here. So let me bring this over. Now, I'm going to go ahead and explain what I did. I've already had the project set up in here, but I'm going to take you through everything that I did and how I got it to where it's at. And what I'm going to do that is I'm going to show you through my Project Explorer. Now, the way I do my setup for all my projects when I bring anything with scan data in or SX10, the first thing I do is I open up TBC and I start a new project. And then since the JXL has all the project backing in there, you know, my state plane, which you can see, like Joe was saying, on the bottom of the bar down here. So that when I brought that project in, it's in US survey feet, on Maryland State Plane. So it was already selected to that job that I put in there. So you don't have to worry about setting it up to that job parameter. It's already done through the collector and Trimble Access. I bring the job in. I let it do all the automated features itself, even up to the point cloud. You can stop the point cloud colorization, and you can do that yourself. I generally just go ahead, because TBC does a better job than I could. I just let it do all the automated features since they worked that out, and that's just another great tool in there. After I bring my scan in, the next thing I go ahead and do is I classify my regions. Now, you can either go ahead and let them You can either go ahead and use these classes to extract here automatically, or you can manually do an area, or you can go ahead and make your own region in there. That's what I end up doing sometimes with like cars and stuff like that, or just in the default region in there. I end up making like a cars region and in there. And then that way I have my data set to how I want to work it at. Now, like I was saying, with this project, I'm working with a couple different surfaces here. So if I go ahead and break all the regions down right off the beginning, it's going to make it smoother for me to work with, because what I'm eventually going to just be doing is I want to blend, excuse me again here while I sniffle, I'm sorry. I want to blend the parking lot to the water, because I need to know what's going on with the parking lot surface to the water surface, so that way they can get the right percentages out of that. Now, I'm going to close this window, but usually you just go ahead and you select the area that you want to classify the regions, and then you're good in there. Okay, so I will close that window out, and I'm going to talk about my files I used up here. You'll see a points file, but you don't see the points on there. I have those turned off right now because I want to classify my points region first, so that way I can get my ground out of there first. So now that I've done that, you'll see where I use the points in there. I'm going to go ahead and turn those on, and I'm going to work back and forth slowly. And just anyone, if I'm going too fast right now, if I'm missing anything, please just let me know. And Joe, like, interject if I'm going a little fast in here. So I turned the points back on, and you can see where I was doing all my sonar in here. So from here, this is where I ran everything with the Hydrone and the Sonarmite. Right now, because of all the noise that's in the skin, this wouldn't be good. So that's why we want to go ahead and classify those regions, and which we did. So now I can start turning them off and being left with what I actually want to work with in there. So I turned all the point cloud off, and this is where I find when you do your sonar work where it gets a little bit confusing for your end user, is that a lot of people will put the depth applied on their collector and they collect a lot of data and it doesn't come out. Not unbeknownst to the user on there, there's a lot of points in there. So what I do is I bring my file in the TBC, just like we did here. Then in your home tab, where everything usually is, your import, export, send, the sync, your view manager, you have this nice job report generator. From there, you can click, and this is going to bring a sidebar up on your little, and this is going to show your JXL that you're working in. If you have the style sheet ready to go, you'll have that underneath these three bars, and when they line up, if it's set to the right job, it'll come in there. Of course, mine set in there because I had it set up this way from that job. And you click this in, and that'll open in, and it'll give you the depths from this CSV file, or excuse me, from the job file, and that'll break out into a text format. Okay, I'm going to cancel mine for here. Say you don't have this style sheet. Well, there's a Trimble style sheet website. You click on there. As long as you're active on the internet, everything's going to open up. So you can go in here and find many, many different style sheets. Excuse me. The one you're going to want is comma delineated with depths applied. You can load that into a controller, into your TSC7, T10, or the older TSC3. If you have TBC, I prefer to do it this way. That way you have all the original job data. It's all stored inside the collector, and then you just bring it right into TBC, and you're not worried about getting a job file, a CSV file. You have all one file format that can be brought into TBC. Okay. Along with that, there's probably many other file formats you can get in here. I get lots of questions in here. We could talk about this on another Power Hour, but there's many different styles you can get in here and put in your collector, or you could just run it through TBC and get that. So I'll close that window down. So now, after you get that, that comes out in your sheet. If you hit apply right here, like I said, it applies to a notepad. It does not apply to the job you're doing right now. It does not go back in and give the depths. What you have to do at that point is re-import the CSV file that you just made with the depths. I'll click on my folder real quick. I know we're supposed to stay in the, but I just want to show you that it prompts you to this. From here, you save this as a CSV, and then you have all your depths applied in there. Now, I'll go back in. Now, another thing that I do on mine is I like to keep the actual surface depths of where the Sonarmite was at. It's a good profile on there. That way you actually know where those shots were at. And if you need to give that to a dredger, you can give them the actual pinpoint area that, 5004 is right here by northern and easting, and he needs to remove 2 foot of cut right there. That's why I like.
Hey, Chris.
Yes, sir.
Could you toggle the white background on?
Yes.
It's a little easier to. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah, just showing the points on that one. Like I said, and that way you know where the top of the top water shot is from that. Also, speaking on that, if your mean low water depth to your NAVD 88 is within the 7/10 range, you can actually set that up on the Sonarmite. You can set that depth so that it's actually giving you a true depth right down in there if you're really good at doing that and know how you set those depths. So now we'll go ahead back in, and I'll go ahead and turn the point cloud region back on. And you can see where those were shot at in the water. There's a couple more out here. Now, out in this region out here is where it's getting out into the channel. You didn't have to get as many in there. The most concern was right here at the end of these piers. That's where the general area of concern is. And what will happen is that the boats will come in and it'll just push. So it just pretty much almost like a snow plow. It just pushes the snow, it pushes the silt to a certain point. It just backs up, and that's it. And then they have to get it out of there. So let me turn just the ramp on, and I'm gonna turn the surfaces on, and at the same time I'll be turning the point clouds off on the back. Okay, so I'll do with the ramp first, and I'll turn the point cloud off behind it. So that's just the ramp surface there. And this is the overall of the water and the surface out here mixed together. Now, the reason why you have so much, I should say so many filters in here, so many tins in this little mesh, is that we have Torrent Chip roads over here. So this is a Torrent Chip paving out here. So this ends up being our sediment deposit, is that all this Torrent Chip out here ends up going down to the ramp. Now, I prefer to do my surfaces with a scanner and with the SX10. There's no tighter topo you can shoot by yourself. And if you need this much of a topo on there and that much of a surface, you're going to get a better one out of this. I'm amazed every day, and I've used TBC for a very long time, and I'm still amazed every day that what kind of surfaces can put out. It is awesome. So just showing you all those tins in there, showing you all the depressions now. Your probably elevations are only about a couple hundredths in there until you get down to the actual pier out here. Okay, and I'll turn that on. So now I have my entire overall, and you can see what the problem is here. So when you come down the ramp, as you get to where you're going to load your boat in, soil just comes straight across. So what I did was tick it all the way out till we got a nice drop. That will be our bottom of a nice clean area. And if you look around, you can even see the sides still come out that far. So it's pushing a lot of soil in there. If you just had to go out there and just guess where the soil was at, it's kind of like rod sounding out there. It would take you a lot longer than doing it this way. This way you got a nice profile. You know, you can overlay this again for years and years and just keep seeing how much silt is actually coming out, or how much of this, you know, Torrent Chip is actually coming out into here, and how we could replace it, and talking to the county. But as I said, it's a limited budget on the county for things they're going to do there. So let me turn the points back off. And Joe, is there any questions in there so far of how we've gotten to here or anything? Are we okay so far?
Yeah, we've got one from Mark that was concerning the tidal ranges. He was asking about how the Sonarmite was logging the data, if you logged the coordinates as RTK coordinates, and if you did, would this not automatically give you a true bed reading as the tide raised or lowered?
So what he basically, my thing with doing the RTK readings on this is that the first thing you have to do is, that's a completely different process than the way I did it, because you have to have, when you bring an RTK into it, there's a different sheet that comes out there, the one that has the depth applied and attributes in there, and it gives you a percentage. Basically, first thing you got to do with an RTK is you got to go through and take out anything under 40% and drop that out. It's not giving you an actually good reading. And then anything that's over 40% you want to keep. Once you found those in there, what you're going to do, so for instance, so if I'm going to go out and do a survey, I want to go out when it's low tide. So meaning whatever the low tide is in an area. So if this morning that low tide was at 7 a.m. and it told me that it was a -4 from 0, so I know I'm at a -4 foot tide. And then at lunchtime, they said the high tide is a +2. Well, then I know that today my tide was a 6 foot range. So before you start your survey, you're going to want to make sure that you know what the tidal range is that day. You want to know what time you're out there. And if you're on that water for more than, 4 hours that day, you're going to mark the notes on that tide. Now, depending on what area he is in, usually you want to start off at a tide gauge, and then you want to go ahead and hit the DNR benchmark. Usually in the area, they have 4 DNR nails set up at whatever they call in 4 foot or their 0 mark. You'll hit that, establish your survey, and then that way you'll know the tidal differences in there. Now, I know lots of tidal ranges are different. There can be a 15-foot one. There can be a 20-foot one. There can be many different factors to that. The wind, is there a storm coming in? So you're going to really watch what you're doing out there when you're doing that kind of survey, if that answers Mark's question.
Yeah, we'll see if he follows up. Another one came in from Jesus. Were the shots opus corrected or with a local base? Because he's noticing that those were control quality.
Yes, so those were set with the VRS network in our base, the KeyNet base. That runs from Virginia to Maine. That's through Keystone, and that was set with the. Because I actually went to Corbin this year for the Sino America games, and that was set to the NGS standards, is where you take 3 at a 1/3 shot for 3 minutes. So there's 9 minutes on each on 2 of those. So my site 1 and 2 is what here. Let me click that on there while you're talking about that, Joe, so I can explain that on there. Is a very good question, very good. So let me open that up a little bit. I'll turn the surface off for a second. So we'll go back into my points and we'll turn on the point cloud area here. So my control was set off of 1 and 2 over here. Let me turn that back off there a little bit. So my control was set off of this station here, number 1, and then number 2. These were set with 9-minute observations from NGS. NGS says that you take 1 shot and you turn a third and you turn another third. That way you close that. So that's how they were set. Also, I did set I ran a traverse loop off of those to control that back down. So that was run off a controlled network from the VRS, yes. And then I will show the Travers network too, so I can just turn the Travers network on. I just did a little 3-point Travers over here in it. That's right there. My little triangle up here ran in that little site there. Let's turn that point cloud. Even you see
Nice
that.
to see all of the raw data measurements. For those potentially new to TBC or just getting into it, one of the unique features of TBC is that you're working with the actual raw data and the actual vectors coming in from a local base, or to be able to see these adjusted traverse network that Chris has here. So really powerful. Really speaks to having confidence in your data and being able to back it up with the actual raw data coming in from our Trimble and third-party sensors.
Yeah, and if I didn't do it that way, and to answer Jesus, if I didn't do it that way, I would have set up static, and I would have used TBC's processing service. I would have used the internet download there, and I would use the Chorus station that's close. So if I go in there, I have my Chorus network set up here, and I would just post-process it there. But this way, I was real time, so I did it that way. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I got a good one here from Chris. Did you remove the file header generated from the job report generator before importing to create that clean point northing easting elevation delta file import into TBC?
From the notepad or from the CSV? So the notepad, what I do is I do a little bit of Excel work, which I don't want to show you in here. It's just so when you take that notepad, you don't have to remove that header when you make that CSV file. If you open that up in Excel and you say what formula you're bringing in, it'll go ahead and do that. I mean, if you guys want me to show you that, I can show you that briefly, but I wanted to stay in TBC as much as possible.
Well, in the importer of TBC, when you're importing a CSV, there's custom import file options where you can ignore that top line. You can choose how many rows to ignore,
Yes,
and that would be
yes.
the way to not import a header like that.
Yeah, the way I do it with my formulas, I don't even see them in there, Chris. I'm sorry. I usually just do it a different way, and I've never had that come in. So I just take them out before I'm even in there. Okay, so this is the whole surface here, everything combined together. So to get this out, you can export it many different ways. You can give a DWG, you can give the TIN, the TTM. So just depending on how you want to get it out of here. So you have your CAD tab, and you have your DWG, you have your DXF, and just however you want to get that out would be your exporting way on there. And the point cloud, if you want to get the point cloud out, many different ways to go out of there. LES, E57. You can take it into RealWorks. You can take it into Recap. And many different forms of export out of there you can get. That is the whole surface together. I'm going to turn the point cloud on it behind it again. Point cloud. And then so that way you see another good feature of this all right here, of everything in here. Another thing that's new that I like that everyone put into TBC this year is the feature extractions. That's the extract point feature. You can only do this if you've already classified your point region, which I already did. So this tree here, if you go into the extract point feature, when it comes up, you can either do manual or automatic. So if you do automatic, it's going to take every tree you have on your project and start picking out the spread, diameter, and the tree height. I just made it a manual point, and I picked the trunk of the tree over here. And then what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to turn the point cloud data off behind it again. Hold on 1 second. I moved the bar down low, and now I've lost my bar. There we go. Sorry about that. So here's the tree, and then when I click on the tree, it'll give me all my attributes there. So I'll select the properties. So now on my side, if you put your feature code in there, your feature code list, your FXL, that's a broadleaf tree. I don't know if it's a cherry tree. I just said it was a cherry tree. But my height was 17 feet. It's got a 3.4 diameter, and it's got a 16-foot spread. This is very valuable for all the metadata. So if you're out doing trees or any poles or anything, you have all that data right from that point cloud. Very good, very handy to use. It's a very good tool, especially I came from more of an environmental background, and we go out and get tree sizes, and sometimes you're off. This way, you're letting the scanner down. Now this tree was scanned from 3 different perspectives. Yeah. That way you have a lot of different parameters on it. Also, I did a poll in here too.
Chris, can you turn the cloud back on so you can see it?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Let me break it down to the actual color by regions here.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
So Chris was talking about right upon import, you can colorize, and that's a true color from the images taken from the SX10. And then he got into region classification earlier, and there's automatic region classifications, like you can see there. High vegetation is in green. We find it's useful about it's accurate. It's not perfect, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. You can see that chip is classified as a tree, but it just delineates it, puts it on a separate region. Regions for point clouds in TBC, think of those like layers, like just CAD layers, just further management tools. You can then go ahead and clean anything up you want or create your own manual, custom regions like Chris was saying, but very, very useful tools. And now we're getting into not just the handling and manipulation of the point cloud, but actually turning that data into information with this tree extraction. Sign and polls are also added, and we're looking to expand that functionality here further with future releases.
Yeah. I also did the poll up here too. On this one, there's a power pole up here. Same thing with the feature extraction. Tells you the height and diameter of the pole. Very, very useful. All these things are very useful. As being coming from the surveying background, I mean, this is a very complete surveyor, and it's a CAD tool. This is complete engineering tool software from the beginning to the end now, and I just like the way and smoothness of this, and I hope everyone can see how that works on there and how smooth this is. So we showed that TBC can handle many different types of equipment coming in. SX10, R10, the Hydrone, with being the prism on top, and then the actual Sonarmite on there. Now, There's something that you can do in here as well for driving and 3D drive. Usually you can have a surface selected. So I'm going to select the surface and say overall surface here. And then it's a cheap way, but it's something nice. You can go to quarters and there's a 3D drive button. So say you have your entire area done and you want to show somebody kind of like a walkthrough on this, on how to get through it. You can select that surface and go to 3D drive view, okay? Once you go to 3D drive view, as long as you had it selected, it's going to bring up two windows. You load up the bottom window. Now, I'll let you know right now, the computer I have is a little bit robust. Working with scan data, as I guess Joe and the rest of them will tell you, I've been a training machine for the past 2 years, and that's why I'm pretty sick right now. I spent pretty much the last month training everywhere in Boston and coming back and forth. So the weather up there was kind of bad to what I'm used to down here, but I've done nothing but train SX10s. And the thing that I've seen mostly for you guys out there is that you're not ready inside with your computers. So please, you look at the minimum requirements that for TBC. I would just look and say how much scanning you're going to do with the SX10 and just look at that first. And please contact us. If you want something that actually runs a little bit better, like contact myself or contact anyone at Trimble, and we'll be able to get you a little bit better system processing for that. So back to what I was saying about this, I'm going to raise this screen up here a little bit just so we can kind of show you. So I want to pick an area where I want it to walk through. I'm going to scroll back out. So we just want to look at the area. I'm going to pick the speed up a little bit on this. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to slowly come through. Let me slow it. Let me get it way back. So now you'll just slowly work our way through the project, and you can pan and look at the same time you're coming through. And you can make it at any speed you want. This way you can get a pretty much good overall view of what's in your project. Granted, it's a little distorted here because I have it picked out there, but you're getting a good overall. Like if you want to view it from the side to see how that surface is coming in there, you're driving it 3D now. We can pick up the speed a little bit. I don't want to go too much, but you can see. So if you had this over the surface over your entire, let's say you're doing 3 miles of road, you can pretty much just ride along that 3 miles of road and see any of the contours or anything else. Of course, right here, I'm on the bay floor, coming up to the surface of the ground, showing me around the entire aspect of this whole project up here. Also shows you the Wye River Marine boat coming out there too as well. Another great little tool, excuse me, I'm gonna take a drink, to kind of drive around and see what overall in your project, what's there. So speaking of that, I'm going to close this window out. I'm going to close my surfaces down. So like I said, speaking of TBC and what it'll handle, so I have the image, here's the tree here, I'm going to turn that off as well. And I'll turn the point cloud off behind, that way you can see that sign of it a little better. So, see this nice road sign here, and you can also see that the water is getting a little bit frozen out there. So that wasn't the day I did the Sonarmite. This was done on 2 different days. I did the Sonarmite probably about 3 months ago, and I did a scan over here in January. Now, here's the real thing. So I showed you the SX10, the R10, the Sonarmite, all in one project. I'm going to show you that this is a mobile mapping run on the same project with the MX7. Done on a better day, same project. So for me, TBC is my one-stop shop. So we can take the land, sea, and air, just like our own armed services. And I'm sure when you see next month's webinar, that Ray will show you a lot more about the MX7 and TBC. So, and these points that y'all will pick in here, I can pick the points in between these. We're about 500ths off, and I haven't registered or I didn't post-process the MX7 data to the data I shot with the SX10 or anything. So from just driving by in that parking lot, you can only do 15 miles an hour. So driving by at 15 miles an hour, 500ths of an inch off of all my shots that were tied in to the RTK network. And I think that is pretty good when you're looking for a software that can do all of those things in one. So you're not worried about where's my data going to go and how am I going to get it out. It's just how much data can I get and how much can I do in TBC. And I'll let you know, I haven't found that answer out yet because there has been nothing that TBC hasn't really done for me, and there's been limitless things that I've done with an SX10. Joe, any what we got coming down questions wise? Anything up yet?
Yeah, so we've got a decent amount of questions in kind of two areas. So people are interested in how you went ahead and did some of the planning for the hydro work, particularly with data collection and setup. Ben was asking, was there an ROV pilot and surveyor, or did you just set it by auto by interval time with the MT1000 on the boat? There was another question of strategies or recommendations for data collection. Is it something that you'd want to do in kind of a gridded pattern, or more kind of random, or what your approach was to this data set?
Okay, let's start with the first one was Ben.
Yes.
And you want to know like what my so what I do on this is you can set it up by fixed distance or time. So depending on how you want to do this and how much data you actually want out there. So I just ran basically I call it the tic-tac-toe pattern. I just run a straight line out, and then I run over 10 feet and run that back and do that pattern until I get to the side. And then I go up 10 feet and I run that laterally across it until I'm done. With this one, I just kind of knew where they wanted where they were going to go and what they were looking for. So I just ran out straight from, I'll pull it. Oh, I got the data here. I'm sorry about that, Ben. So what I was doing, Ben, is that I knew basically that, these boats are coming out this way right here, like that boat that's right there, that they're coming straight back out, and they have a dock over here. Their main concern was in this area right here, basically, is that the guys were bringing their boats in, and they were, putting their motor down, and they were starting it in muck, and it shouldn't have been happening there. So the area of concern here was a little bit different. It was just from where this back of this boat is to the front of this sailboat. The area was about 150 foot, so I just set it up to give me a shot every 5 foot and ran it in there. You can also set it on fixed time and fixed distance. That way you kind of get both in there. More data is always better than less data. You can always reduce the data out. That's what I always say. I I hope that's answering his question there. The other thing about setting up and being ready for one of these jobs is that, yes, you're going to want to go ahead and, look on the NOAA website. Go in there and see if there's a gauge anywhere. Like we have the Baltimore Harbor up here, Fort McHenry and stuff. There's a bunch of tidal gauges up there and gauges. You should just go ahead. So if you're going to start up there, I would go ahead and, check into that monument, do a control on that monument so you actually know where you're coming off of. So, check that NGS monument, shoot it, check into it, say, I've checked in by 2000s, whatever, everything from further is from this monument, and then I checked into this tidal datum because it's very hairy. I mean, if you're going through an 8-foot tidal change and, you're off 2 feet, that's a hell of a lot of water you got to take out and somebody's got to pay for it. Did that answer those? Is that those two, or I'm trying to see where I got on those two questions if I make sure I fielded them right?
Yeah, it seems like if that hadn't follow up, I got a couple other questions regarding SX10 and point cloud handling in TBC, and I think there will be a few that we won't be able to get to here. Let's see. Can TBC import LAS files generated by other photo processing software from Matthew? And the answer to that is yes. TBC is positioning itself to be data agnostic. So common industry standards like LAS, LAZ, XYZ, PTX, E57, POD, file formats. Once you get those formats into TBC, the classification, the regions, all of those tools will work. So the format kind of agnostic. Of course, we want you to have the yellow boxes that say Trimble on the side, but if not, and of course we want you to be using TBC, but if not, we would gladly accept data from other software and hardware as well. There was some questions about some additional analysis tools from Anthony, being able to run measurements or do some COGO between points. There are a slew of tools in TBC, like Chris is showing up there, to pull quick measurements or do geometry creation work between CAD points or scan points with snapping tools. There's a real handy surface point to surface computation with a report that'll spit out of that as well. So there are many tools in TBC, and I can get into more information. We're running a little short on time to show a whole lot of those, but Chris, if you want to, could you just pull a distance from a point to another point just to see what that result is?
Yeah, we'll go from the piling to the piling up here. So you're 9.7 feet now. The other thing is I actually picked the top, so that was good. My other thing is I used to tell people when they're picking in the 3D picker, make sure they're getting it from a better perception, because if you grabbed the bottom of that, it wouldn't be there. So there's your height, there's your distance there. So you're 9.76 feet across. There's your distance. And that's a quick measurement tool in there. And then you have your other ones in there. You say earthwork, so if you wanted to get an earthwork report, you can get that out here. You can get a cut and fill map out of here. You can also do your quick contours on the surface. You can add your break lines. I mean, there's endless amounts in here. What else did he say in the, what was it in the, I'm trying to think what you just said there. In the CAD here, you can do, you can make your polylines, your strings in here. In your drafting, that's where you're going to find most of the old COGO tools like that too. Yeah. We have any more to this?
Yeah. So Jonathan was asking, I presume TBC can handle larger bathymetric data sets like from Multibeam? Yes, as long as the formats are in something that we support. Chris, have you dealt with much Multibeam stuff?
Yeah, and that now, Matt, that form's right here. It's a different one. That's the one with the so I've done with them too, which is better because you get top of silt, bottom of silt. So you're looking for a hard surface bottom. What he wants to get on that one is that he'll get this one here. When I'm showing him the style sheet, he'll want to grab this one off of here, and that one's going to put that extra. See where it says right here, including secondary depths for dual frequency echo sounders. Okay, so he doesn't get the first one, he'll get the second one off of here, and then that way it does dual beam. That also, from the other question I had earlier, with the RTK, you want to grab that one as well, because that way you're going to get all those percentages in there. And like I said, anything under 40%, you're going to chuck out. I hope that answered most of the questions. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry I didn't put my email. I forgot to put my email address up there. But anyone can email me as well at my my first initial of my name, C, and my last name, Guayardo @keypre.com.
Right. Thank you. Two more quick ones here, and then we'll jump back into resources and next steps.
Yep.
Good question here. How to overcome moving objects during data collection, like vehicles or boats. The SX10 features the ability to do multiple passes. So
Yep.
If you have a car, a vehicle, or something moving in your way in front of your station setup, the chances are maybe it'll shoot it for pass 1, but the recommended setting would be to do 4 passes on that, so you still have 3 other passes to pick up the data. And then the noise generated, this transitions into the second question, the noise generated by moving objects can then be filtered out in regions, create a junk region or a noise region, and just turn that off, so you'd be able to select using the TBC lasso selection tools.
Here, I'm going to do that while you're talking right now. I'm going to do that while you're talking.
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
I'm going to take this pier. I'm going to take this half of this pier here and just take this out. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to hit enter. Got a lot running on here. I got the program. So I grab that area of that pier, and I'm going to add to a region. This one here. So just say I want to add it to buildings. So now, once it adds, and now that I turn everything off, and that stays in the buildings layer. So if I wanted to create a new region in this area right here, I could even do that as well. I could just grab that and say I wanted to create a new region and call it a dock. Yeah. So, and then I'd give it a color. It'll automatically give it a color from the cloud. But if I want to go in and change that properties of that cloud in there, I can do the same in there from that. I can just give it a new cloud color. So.
Another handy tool and a great observation here was that the density of the SX10 and any terrestrial scanners for that matter, depending on your application, of course, can be managed down. There's really potentially no reason why you would need a point as dense as you've got them collected on the ground, for example. And you can cut using the sampling tools by total number of points in the cloud. So you can go, if you've got 100 million points, say, just give me 1 million. You can sample by that, and or you can do it by point density. So I don't need a point every couple of centimeters like I've got here. Give me a point every half a meter. You can specify that in those sampling tools up there as well.
Yep, correct. I was just doing a down and dirty one on that one. You could even do it another way. There's 3 ways to skin the cat in this. You could even go right here to that scan the cat and grab this area up here. I like my polygon selection. I could say I just want to just take this area, in here, and say I just want your space. I want a point every 5 foot. and I just grab that area out. So I could do that, or I could do the same way that Joe just said and sample by intensity, and then that way now I have a point every 5 foot that's in there as well too. So lots of different ways to do that.
Yeah. All right, well, we got a few minutes left. I do want to talk about what we've got available for you. So if you could jump back into the presentation, Chris.
Yep.
All right, resources and next steps. So the number one place to find out more information, kind of our data hub, our central hub, is our webpage, trimble.com/TBC. We did merge with the construction business center heavy civil edition. If you're coming from a site tech or a construction customer, welcome. Glad to have you on the Power Hour. We are maintaining two separate websites for those two separate channels, but on those websites, you'll find things like customer success stories, testimonials. Don't take my and Chris's word for it. Take your peers' word for it. So we've got a lot of success stories there. Always looking for more and getting more content updated there. Also, a good place to find bulletins, announcements, white papers, downloads of the software and some other utilities associated with TBC. Go ahead. Probably, well, it's hard to say what the best resource is, but the YouTube channel can be really, really helpful because we want to be respectful of your time. You're looking for information quick. So we've got a couple of, several videos and broken out into playlists, over 240, I think, videos now. Of these little topics, and they're just a couple minutes long on these specific topics. So questions came in on, well, I'm new to using point clouds, and I want to see what can you do? What registration, for example? We didn't talk about that. Point cloud registration in TBC. Check our YouTube channel. There'll be lots of great resources there. Workflow-based playlists to help you find where you need to go there. And then our power hours. So this is one in a line of many. We started these sessions back in the middle of 2015 every month. Those are all available for you on demand at no charge to watch as you wish. We are getting lately we've been supporting the audio recording with the actual data. So if you want to play around and see what Chris was doing, we are going to provide you this data set as well. So watch the recording on maybe one screen, or just freehand it in TBC and see what you can do, and see really the power of our integration story of integrating the Sonarmite sensor with SX10 and mobile mapping, which Chris kind of teased earlier in the presentation. The TBC community pages is our public-facing forum for you to reach out to us that is monitored by users and folks on the TBC and Trimble team for questions, announcements, things like that. Also home to our tip of the week, which will be every week we take a little topic, maybe something, a little nugget of something that maybe you didn't know, a little useful feature. I think there's 800 or so commands in TBC now, so we're growing and want to make that information readily accessible to you. So some good stuff there on the community pages. We have also introduced TML for those TerraModel users out there. It's not the TerraModel language, it's the Trimble macro language. Being able to customize TBC with your own commands now in TBC version 5 with Survey Advanced and higher. That has its own community page monitored by our developers to ask questions, post sample macros, and anything you may need there to get you started. Great way to really make TBC your own as a platform for your organization or company. TBC Retrieve. So this is an online platform coming from the construction channel that we're happy to have now, managed by Civil Engineering Construction, open for all. Mike Harris does a great job of breaking down workflows, breaking down all of the new options of additions and modules for TBC. That's available now at trimble.retrieve.com. And then next steps. One of the strengths of the Trimble brand and TBC is our worldwide distribution network. Chris as a prime example of that. So we want you to work through your local Trimble distribution partner. You can download TBC for free from our website, and you can get a free 30-day demo license of all the functionality from that partner, whether it's geospatial or the construction site tech channel. Look for us there. Find out more information, reach out to us. Happy to have you with questions. Again, my email is at the front of this presentation. This presentation will be available along with the recording and the data.
Hey, Joe, I'd just say anyone that's on the East Coast, like, feel free to reach out to me as well, too. Like we keep saying that, you know, even if you are dealing with a different partner there, we're all Trimble. You know, we all work under the same. And, you know, I just like to give the knowledge out. If you guys need knowledge and need help, please feel free to reach on me.
Yeah. And our next Power Hour, I'm really excited about this, investing in mobile mapping and TBC, specifically with the MX9 system that's new within the year, and supporting that in TBC. So Ray Wu, who is our dedicated Trimble TBC learning consultant and a mobile mapping extraordinaire, will be on with me as we break down the MX9 workflows in TBC, some of the deliverables and things that you can extract from this data as TBC makes the big jump into supporting mobile mapping data, specifically MX9. MX7 data, like Chris mentioned, is also supported. But this focus of the next Power Hour will be on the new MX9 mobile mapping system. And I think with that, there was a handful of questions that we didn't get to. I have them. Either Chris or I will reach out to you. Thank you for attending. Chris, thank you for putting this together. And with that, do you have any closing thoughts? Anything, Chris?
No, thank you guys so much. I think this is awesome. This is probably make my year right here. It starts my year off with a bang. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for all my fellow members of Keystone. And that's it. I hope everybody has a great day and has a great 2019. Looking forward to hearing from all of you.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Great session, and we'll see everybody in a couple weeks to talk about MX9 and mobile mapping in TBC. Thank you.
Thanks.